All right. Back to it now as we continue with our conversation from the Michigan Chamber of Commerce. It's the most powerful voice in business, the Michigan Chamber Business Brief. Zach Rudat is here, the Director for Legal Reform at the Michigan Chamber. Zach, nice to have you on the program.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. The Michigan Alliance for Legal Reform has launched to restore fairness, curb lawsuit abuse. It's a broad coalition of Michigan business leaders calling for common sense legal reform. Look, one of the biggest threats to business any given day is civil action. Not legal action, civil action. Because business owners are often they're a mark. They're a target, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think, just talking about the legal climate in general, there might be a misconception that it's only going to impact you if you're actually in a lawsuit or actually in a courtroom. But like to your point, if you're a business owner, you're facing costs on this on a regular basis. If you add up that trickle-down cost that consumers in every household faces, because our legal climate adds up to about $3,000 annually that every household in Michigan's paying right now. It's also costing us right now over 100,000 or nearly 100,000 job opportunities every single year. So if you think about the capacity of the big house, that's 100,000 people. That's how many jobs that we're losing out on in Michigan because of our legal climate. So we launched this alliance to try to curb in that lawsuit abuse and try to restore some fairness and balance in Michigan's legal system.
So I see states like Tennessee and Florida and others that, are getting jobs and factories and opportunities we don't get. And oftentimes I attribute that to our tax base and our infrastructure, but the legal environment, something I've never really considered, Zach. So does this differ from other states? Indiana, for example, just got a great new Nissan plant, I believe it is. It's being built down there as an easy example. A car plant should be coming to Michigan. That's what we do, and yet it's going to Indiana. Is this part of the reason?
I mean, yeah, this is definitely undermining just our competitiveness as a state at large. And I mean, a lot of the other states, like you said, that are seeing a lot of economic growth right now, they're making some of these kind of common sense reforms. And quite frankly, some of the policies that we're looking at here between restoring open and obvious premise liability protection and some third-party litigation funding transparency, you're seeing red states, purple states, blue states across the country that are adopting these kind of common sense reforms. And we're really behind the eight ball on this point in Michigan right now.
What do you need to see happen? What do you want to see? And here's the real question. Can you get a bipartisan bill through and get it to the governor's desk? What needs to happen? What would you like to see in legislation, and can we get it done?
Yeah, so I would say there's probably two big priorities out of the gate for us right now on the legal climate front. One is restoring this open and obvious premise liability protection, and two is implementing some third-party litigation funding transparency. So just to kind of break that down a little bit for your audience, open and obvious premise liability protection. This is a protection if you're a property owner and you have a hazard on your property that's open and obvious to the average person, like a patch of ice on your sidewalk. You used to be protected from that kind of liability in the state of Michigan, but our state Supreme Court overturned that protection a couple of years ago. So now we're only one of 9 states across the country that doesn't have some type of premise liability protection. So we got 41 other states.
Hold on. Let me think about this. If you have private property, and on your private property is a parking lot, and on that parking lot is a big sheet of ice that's clearly there, and somebody walks in off the sidewalk onto that sheet of ice and busts their butt, they can sue you?
Yeah, and like I said, we're one of 9 states in the country that doesn't have this type of protection. And just to kind of put meat on maybe how silly some of these cases can end up being, the case that overturned this and worked its way up to the state Supreme Court, when you're at a grocery store and you got the chain across the checkout aisle, the signal that it's closed, somebody tripped on that, sued Kroger, that worked its way up to the Supreme Court, and that's the case that overturned this protection. So that's
there's a chain across the checkout aisle. Very obvious. I've seen them. They're usually yellow. They're bright colored. Yeah. Somebody falls over this and sues Kroger because they closed a checkout line. That doesn't even make sense.
And I was listening to your program earlier. You had somebody calling about just talking about housing and affordability. I mean, this is directly increasing the cost of owning property in the state of Michigan and buying a home here and investing in Michigan. Even if you're a renter, you're going to see trickle-down costs from this protection being gone.
So I know a guy, I know a lot of guys, but I know a guy who was building a house. A guy he knew came to the house and fell through the floor and got badly injured and sued him and the builder and a bunch of other people. He came into the house that was under construction, began to wander around on his own and fell through an opening in the floor to the basement, was badly injured. But wouldn't that be his fault?
Under the old protection, that would have been covered. But now, like I said, we have no open and obvious protection at all in the state of Michigan anymore. So we're one of 9 states across the country. So,
crazy.
Yeah. Between this and then the third-party litigation funding legislation that we're looking at, This is a practice that started popping up across the country the last couple of years. But what's happening is a financer will approach either a plaintiff or an attorney or a law firm and say, hey, I'll finance your lawsuit in exchange for a cut of the settlement. So it's pretty problematic on a couple fronts. One, it's just adding fuel to the fire on just lawsuits against employers, big and small. But because it's such a new practice, we have absolutely nothing on the books here in Michigan on it. So you might have cases where the plaintiff themselves might not even know that their case is being financed. They might not read the fine print what they're agreeing to if they are aware of it, and they might lose out on 100% of that settlement altogether. But it also creates a huge national security risk too. So right now, if China or Russia wants to come into Michigan's economy and undermine, manufacturing, agriculture, any of our big sectors, they can come into our courts and finance lawsuits against big industries and undermine our economy and not even be detected at all. So what we're looking to do is just, mandate that disclosure and registration, cap that funding cut of the settlement, ban that foreign entity of concerns from engaging in this practice, and ban that funder influence altogether. And again, those are reforms that states as liberal as California and as conservative as Tennessee have adopted these type of reforms. So these are,
You have to.
Really, yeah.
I mean, how could everybody not agree with it? This is the most common sense thing I've ever heard in my life. If there's if you trespass onto somebody's property and bust your butt on the ice, how can you possibly sue the property owner when you were trespassing in the first place? I mean, it makes no sense. Real quickly, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, like I said, and you made the point about how do we get these things across the finish line. I mean, it's no secret that Lansing is very divided politically, but like I said, these are reforms that have been adopted in red states, purple states, blue states. We were very intentional with trying to find common sense solutions that have gotten done across the political spectrum, and that's our goal, to try to get these across the finish line.
Well, Zach, come back and give us an update when you know more, when you get some legislation moving, because this just seems like the most obvious, easy thing to vote on. No, you can't sue somebody, and you can't allow foreign governments to come in and sue to handicap and kneecap our industries because they see a flaw in the system, and this is very much a big flaw in the system. We should get this done. I think the governor and others would be on board with that. How could they not be? Zach, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. My Lord. One of only 9 states. Come on, Michigan. Let's get in the game. Let's get in the game and save this state. Michigan first. How about that? I want to tell you about My Pure Health Solutions, a natural system that helps you find out why your metabolism isn't working well and shows you how to turn it back on using real science and technology, not shots, not weekly shots or shots for the rest of your life or stimulants. No, you will eat real food. No exercise required, and finally see how the weight loss industry has had it backwards all these years, because lasting change starts by fixing what's happening on the inside and then learning exactly how to keep it off for good. Right now, it's their Black Friday sale. It's there on your screen anywhere in America. Anywhere. It's the biggest sale of the year. You can get on board. Mention you're part of the Steve Gruber Show. You're part of this deal. You'll get an extra listener-only discount. And you don't have to start now. Book the consultation, lock in your discount, and decide when you're ready to start. Could be after Thanksgiving, after Christmas, could be in the new year. In 40 days, men lose 40 pounds, women lose 25. GruberHealth.com to find out more. GruberHealth.com. Call 269-964-4044. That's 269-964-4044. Finally get your metabolism working again. My tongue? Yeah, it'll need a Black Friday sale as well. My Pure Health. GruberHealth.com. I'll be right back.